Good afternoon, friends. I'm still here. And I thought today I'd talk a little bit about an activity that I was involved in for close to 10 years, but it all happened before I met Mel. And consequently, I'm not sure that very many people know about it, but it relates to my role from somewhere around the early 70s to 1985, when I was involved with an organization called Interplast, Inc. Although today it has gone upscale and black tie and refers to itself as Resurge International, if you want to look it up and see what it does. I left McCutcheon, Doyle, Brown, and Ingerson in 1968 or 1969 after I was passed over for partner, although I was offered a job for life as a senior associate. And I thanked them profusely and got out of there as quickly as I could. And I went to Palo Alto as an associate and joined a law firm called Hardy, Carley, Love, and Jaffe. Mr. Hardy had been a judge and had passed on, and Leon Carley was a estate planning and probate attorney and was one of the preeminent practitioners in that area in the greater Palo Alto area. And somewhere in my time at that firm, he asked me to stop by his office and see him, and asked me if I was doing anything that evening. And I said, other than going home for dinner, no. And he said, well, I've kind of been helping a little bit a nonprofit organization over in the Stanford School of Medicine called Interplast, Inc. And it is starting to provide plastic and reconstructive surgery in foreign countries where the plastic surgery bar is not prominent, nor has the opportunity to learn some of the things that are common practice in that field now in the United States. So I thought that he was throwing me a fee-paying client. And you never say no to a chance to get a new client. So off I went to this meeting, which the founder of the organization was Donald R. Laub, L-A-U-B, M.D. And he was the head, I believe, of the plastic surgery department in Stanford School of Medicine. And he had organized Interplast and was trying to get it going. And the first thing that it was going to do, or had just started to do, was to go into Mexico and perform a hair lip correction surgery on people who couldn't afford to go to the Interplast, couldn't afford to go to the professional doctors in Mexico City. And to make this all work, he needed a whole team of professionals. He needed nurses. He needed one or more anesthesiologists. He needed one or more doctors who specialize in children. I've forgotten the profession's name, but it will come to me in due course. And of course, he needed plastic surgeons who were skilled in plastic surgery. But he started out, not surprisingly, by recruiting the students who were in their plastic surgery internship. And he recruited nurses from the Stanford School of Medicine who worked in the surgery aspect of plastic surgery. And that's how he got the anesthesiologists. And he had to do a little rummaging to get someone who specialized in children. And these people would fly from San Jose to various places in Mexico where the administrative part of Interplast had gotten the necessary permission for all of these people to come into Mexico and practice medicine. And so I sat and listened, and it suddenly dawned on me that what they were looking for was free legal service. But they needed an attorney who could get along with doctors and who could go to their weekly or monthly meetings and help out. And so I started out doing that. And I was pretty effective. So they elected me secretary, the corporate secretary of the organization. And my responsibilities grew. I traveled with Dr. Laub and spoke at professional gatherings on how Interplast was organized, the challenges that we faced, the risks that we took, the steps that I took as their lawyer to ameliorate those risks. And there isn't one of the physicians or the nurses that were involved and that I interacted with that weren't just first-class people. Fortunately for me, I had returned from military service with a healthy appetite for alcoholic beverages. And the Interplast staff loved alcoholic beverages, loved to get together for parties. And so I fit in quite nicely. And we kept going. And every couple of years, they would elect new officers. But the officers were always, at this time, one, males, and two, doctors with emphasis on plastic surgery. Pediatrics, that's the children. But the pediatric specialist was such a cool guy that he ultimately had his turn at the desk with the gavel and was the president. And time rolled on and my responsibilities increased, and my relationship with the doctors who were on the board of directors, as well as others who floated in and out, became very comfortable. And one day, Don Laub and a couple of other doctors showed up at my home in Los Altos, and opened a box and took out 2 bottles of a very, very, very expensive and incredibly good French wine. I'm embarrassed that I can't remember the name of the wine. And I said, gee, this is really nice of you. What do you want? And Don said, we want you to be the president of Interplast. And I said, guys, if you were looking at my resume and noticed that I had a Juris Doctor degree, that the Juris meant law, not medicine. And I don't think I'm qualified. To which they all announced that they thought I was the best candidate and would I do it? And I couldn't think of any reason not to, because I always volunteer to be the president of something, especially if nobody else wants to do it. So I became the president of Interplast. And until the late 1980s, I was the only non-medical professional to be the president. That changed when Interplast, when the financial backers of Interplast, the people who were donating large sums of money, wanted to convert Interplast into a high ticket item nonprofit organization that had at least 2 black tie dinners in San Francisco every year. And you paid $250 a seat to go to this, and it was supposed to be really posh. That happened after my term of office ended, which was in, I think, 1985. And I think I was the president in 1984 and 1985. And that year they gave me their most prestigious award, reflecting that doctors can't come up with interesting names, Distinguished Service Award. And it hangs in my office. Don Laub was an amazing guy. He got interested in agriculture and ended up planting the little green fruits. Why can't I remember the name? It'll come to me after I stop talking. But he was always doing amazingly interesting things. And whenever he traveled, he'd always fly first class, and he'd talk to the people in first class and hit them up for donations, which he was very good. So there was a time in my life when my legal skills rewarded me by letting me participate in the governance of Interplast Inc., now Research International, and for 2 years to serve as its president. And it was an activity that I'm to this day quite proud of, and feel that this was just a special time for me. And I think I was I don't know whether it was on a fiscal year or a calendar year, but I may have met Mel just as I was leaving office with Interplast. But it wasn't anything that she knew much about me. And I don't think that my sons were particularly aware of it. And my stepchildren, I don't think have heard about it. And so I thought that you'd all like to know that there was a time when I was the boss of a large number of doctors who, by 1985, had chapters and made trips to foreign countries in Europe, in South America, in Asia. And at one time, we had our own DC-4. And normally, the president would go on all of these trips. But I declined on the ground that I wasn't a doctor, and they would be better served to send a doctor instead of an attorney. And that to the extent they went to other countries, I was only literate in English. And most of the patients, more and more, they got doctors who were bilingual as well. And I didn't think a guy who only spoke English should be flying on DC-4s all over the world. So that's the story of my adventure in the field of medicine, of course, not counting my dominant and prominent role as a patient. Take care, everybody, and I'll talk to you again. Thank you for listening.